This is Audiogyan, and I am your host Kedar Nimkar. Welcome to a deep dive into the minds of luminaries from the Indian creative world. Today we have Himali Kothari back with us on Audiogyan. She's a writer, creative editor of Readings in the Shed. This Audiogyan is for another awesome project that Himali has worked on, Project87, that focuses on richness of English language plays originating from India in the last 20 years. This is a case study to document all about it. So welcome back, Himali, and thanks for joining in.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
No, yeah, it's always the presence is felt because we recently did an episode 223. So just a plug for those who want to listen about and know about what is Readings in the Shed.
Yeah.
After this episode, they can go and listen to 223.
And I think I said us because for me, while Project87 is a part of Readings in the Shed in that sense.
Okay.
And so happy to be here to talk about it. And let's go.
Great. So, but before we jump into the Project 87, I just wanted to understand some background about theatre in Mumbai. Like what I have been influenced or what I've just read about is there was Pasi Theatre, there was Nasruddin Shah performing at NCPA, Prithvi. So there were like certain stage adaptations also done by Bharat Dabolkar. So if you can just give like a brief background of like how did it start or how did English plays come about in the backdrop in Mumbai?
Sure. So I'll try my best to do that. I'm a theatre goer first, person of the theatre much later. I have been an avid theatre goer for at least 20 plus years now. Tried to see everything, since my college days, tried to see everything that I could. So a little bit from there and a little bit in the last few years through Readings in the Shed, having become a small part of this theatre community in Bombay and, met people, spoken to people, read about theatre, heard very, very, amazing talks on theatre spaces, on how different people are working on such fabulous projects. So just based on whatever information that I have understood, I'll try and, share my thoughts on that. So I think for me, it's not my memory, but a close friend who is 80 plus now, Pankaj Shah, he told me once that as a young boy of about 12, 13, he was living in Indore at that time, his hometown. And he sneaked off twice from school to watch Merchant of Venice, and which was staged by Shakespeareana. Geoffrey Kendall had, his theatre company, and Oscar Wilde's Importance of Being Earnest. And I just found that so fascinating that almost, 70 years ago, this is what was being done. Of course, we still, do have the shadow of classics, in a good way. Like we still do create classics for the stage. We also adapt classics in the Indian context, right? So we take Romeo and Juliet and we try and adapt it for the Indian stage. We contextualize it in the current scenario. We've seen all of that happening.
Pia Behrupia is running right now.
Yes, absolutely right. Yeah. And also, a play called Hamlet and Angad by Mr. Manuel, which was, written, I think, a couple of years ago, 2019, which juxtaposes Hamlet and Angad from Ramayana in one play and puts it together. So we are doing that. But going back to evolution of theatre. So I think, initially it was all about just bringing Shakespeare, Oscar Wilde, and people like that, that the classic writers to the Indian stage. This was in the 1940s and 50s. Later, with Pasi Theatre and other theatre forms, adaptations were created. So we said, okay, let's adapt it to the Indian audience, to the Indian stage, to our theatre and our community. I think in the last 30, 40 years, what has happened is that we got exposed to writers beyond the classics. So, we became aware of people like Arthur Miller, we became aware of people like Chekhov, and then those made their way onto our stage. So theatre walas, like Ibrahim Al-Qazi, who you mentioned, brought them to the Indian stage for the Indian audiences. I think that had a lot to do with accessibility to world literature. That now here was an audience which had access to these kind of writers and they were keen to see these kind of plays being performed. So a pool of theatre goers was forming, which was changing in a way, influencing the things that were being staged for them. I think that that has a big effect. And then after that, what has happened is that people said, okay, now we are going to write our stories. We are going to tell our stories, but in English. So we have stories which are rooted in our country, in our society, themes which are familiar to you and me and everybody here being put up on stage in front of us. So I find it quite interesting. And in a way, I think, for me, it's how the language has developed, right? So earlier with the whole, whether you call it a British hangover or whatever, we read Shakespeare. And I mean, when I say we, I'm saying people of those times, they read Shakespeare and that was the exposure, right? They spoke British English, they spoke Queen's English. So what they watched was also that as we developed our own language, like we developed English, right? So, which is a potpourri of so many different languages, not just Hindi and English, but you'll have a little bit of other languages from our country also becoming a part of this language, which is English, but which is so Indian. Which we all identify with, which we resonate with, and I think somewhere the plays took that on. So the language and the content and the subject is all related to each other. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's how the theater has developed, how theater has
So
developed.
the plot remained the same, but the rest of the most of the covers changed completely. Is that
No,
understood?
I don't, no. I think the plot has also changed a lot, right? Because we are now writing plays which are inherently Indian in character
No,
and,
no. What I
hmm,
was asking about is during that phase of 80s, 90s, where this we were on the cusp of changing from being like a purely performing to adapting, right?
yes,
That that.
I think so. And I think what has happened is that, a whole new crop of playwrights emerged, right? And
Hmm.
they had their own stories to tell,
Yeah.
so people like Cyrus Mistry, G.F. Patel, and, much later, more recently, writers like Vikram Kapadia, Rahul Dattana. I mean, they've brought in their style of theatre
Hmm.
to the Indian audiences.
Correct.
And
Correct.
I think that's what has contributed to the development of what we've been seeing, what we have seen on stage, and
Correct.
what we continue to see.
I mean, I don't know whether I'll be like I should ask this question, but just to understand the context here, is that was it in response to the kind of audience they're getting, or was it in response to the other playwrights which were like Vijay Tendulkar and Satyadev Dubey, and these guys were like, was it in that response or?
I mean, my guess is as good as yours, but I would think it would be a bit of both,
Okay.
because I do feel that, and which is a well known fact that art and life mirror each other. So I don't think art can stay isolated and work in a bubble. So it is always a response to what is happening around us. And
Hmm.
I think drawing from that. So, yes, perhaps there was a wider pool growing saying we want to see this, and also them being exposed to different kinds of theater and different languages and different kinds of literature brought the same thing, brought created this atmosphere and this confidence perhaps in the playwrights of those times, saying that okay, we don't need to just stick to what is being done for so many years. We can branch out into a different medium, into a different space, into a different concept, into a different theme, because we have our audiences will take to it, and they will want to see it. So I would think that both the audience and the playwrights and the theater creators fed off each other and contributed to this evolution. Because if the audience doesn't want to see it, you may want to write it, but then what do you do with it? So
Yeah.
somewhere it has to resonate both ways.
Got it. Got it. Correct. And you mentioned about Cyrus Mistry and G. Patel. So I mean, I'm assuming I'm not like that well read, but I'm assuming it's in the second half of the 20th century. So
Yeah.
why are these plays or plays written by them not part of Project 87? I mean, this is just a precursor. We'll get into Project 87, but just to understand, yeah.
So the thing is, these of course are definitely masterpieces. There's no denying their influence as on Indian theatre. They are a part of the stepping stones have that all the other stuff has followed, right? I mean, these laid the foundation. We have to, I mean, that is an acknowledged fact. There is no denying that. But the idea is also that, is that it? Are we trying to say then that these are the only, 5, 10 playwrights who have done amazing work, but aren't there others? So one with Project 87, it was, the idea was also to spotlight other playwrights, and we discovered that out of the 80, like 59 playwrights in the last 20 years have been lauded for their work, which means that they either won one of the prestigious playwriting awards of the country, whether it's the Mehta Award, the Mahindra Excellence in Theatre, or it is the Hindu Playwright Award, or it is the Sultan Padamsee Award, or they were published, or they were appreciated by audiences and ran for many shows. Okay, so 59 playwrights managed to achieve this in the last 20 years. Okay, these are 59 who we have documented in our project. There are many, many, many more as well, whose writing was applauded. Okay, and so the theater, it's alive, it's a throbbing art form. It absorbs from the environment it is a part of, and that is why contemporary writing also needs to be spotlighted. And that was one of the key goals as far as Project 87 is concerned. Another idea also was that if a lot of the theater education in terms of in schools and colleges and places like that is restricted to things that were done till about the 1970s. So through Project 87, I think we're also trying to say that, hey, look, stuff happened after that as well. And let's consider that. Then there are people who are not part of established theater circles, in the sense that maybe they're geographically removed or they're professionally removed. They have like full-time day jobs which they are devoted to and which they do. And then they also write. Their plays have also won awards, you know. But because we've not spoken about them, because they've not been spoken about as much as we could, and maybe we should, perhaps they've been not noticed. So
Mm.
that was the idea, was to say that yes, thank you and great, we salute all the masters who helped us to help theater get to where it is, help playwriting to get to where it is. As a writer, I know that you study the classics, you study, but you also continue to look at the contemporary work. You also continue to look at everything. You read everything. You read everything that is around you, because everything is teaches you.
Yeah, yeah.
So you read things which were written 100 years ago, but you also read things which are being which are published yesterday,
Mm.
and you learn from both. And that's, I think, also one of the important things as far as Project 87 is concerned for playwriting.
Interesting, interesting. So again, if we now probably get into the Project 87, what was the project about? And I was just reading a bit. I'm also following the Instagram page. Like when you started hunting, like where did you hunt? I mean, playwriting awards, or you mentioned about these Sultan Padamsee or Hindu awards. Were those the primary source, or even competitions like Thespo or Meta awards? Or any books that you recommend that you figured out ki yahan pe we'll find out these are. So what was the starting process?
Well, the starting point, honestly, was it a thought from Ramu Ramanathan sir. Okay, he said, we know of playwrights from West End and Broadway, but what about playwrights closer home? What about playwrights from Karol Bagh, from Koramangala? What do we know about them? Because we are sitting in Bombay and somebody is in Calcutta. Do I only know playwrights? I only know of playwrights in Bombay. Or if a play travels to Bombay and I happen to see it, that's my only exposure. What about these other? And do they know? You know, does somebody who is in Calcutta, in Kolkata, does he know about a beautiful play being written and performed and staged in Bombay? And what can we do to bring these playwrights to the forefront and hopefully generate some dialogue about their book? Generate some dialogue which will maybe make a director in Kochi sit up and say, hey, you know what, this play written in Bombay seems interesting. Maybe I should connect with this playwright and see if I can bring it to Kochi, you know. So there's sort of a cross pollination of writing and of art and theater. That was the idea. How did we go about? Well, the first thing was foraging. Okay, we just foraged. And I have to mention two people here, Mary George and Vipra Vijaykar. Okay, they are both students of BWalk Theatre and Stagecraft at Wilson College. Okay, it's a newly instituted course about a year and a half ago. And they both are a part of that course. And they came on board as interns for the project. And all the initial work of gathering material, gathering collection of plays was done by them. Okay, so they drew up a list of 250 plays. Okay,
Wow.
250
This
plus
is pan
plays.
India.
Yes, in the past 20 years, stuff that we could find out. Yes,
Correct.
pan India, things that we could see. Um,
So sorry, but this was also because of the online searches, or you were
No,
actually able to go to
no, no,
certain
no. I
libraries?
mean, we needed a task force. We called for help, and fortunately, it was answered. So we had, we wrote to QTP, Satoral Shah, and Kasar Padamsi from QTP, Aisha Sayani from Sultan Padamsi, Shehnaz Patel of Rage, Lata Ganpati, and Mukund Padmanabhan, who are all associated with the Hindu and thus knew about the Hindu Playwright Awards. All of these people, and then publishers like Sahitya Akademi, Dhauli Books, Orion. Then there was Abhijit Sen Gupta ji's playwriting encyclopedia, okay, which was an excellent resource for us. And so many people, we pinged them and they pinged us back. And we said, we are trying to compile this list, and they shared their list with us. So, especially all these, organizations like QTP, Rage, Hindu Playwriting Award, Meta, all of them, we consulted their lists over the last 20 years. And our initial filtering happened through that. That, okay, these are the plays that, struck at the top of these, for these people. Okay, they caught the sight of these awards and these publications. So let's look at this list. So from that, we came to about 250 plus plays. And then through the guidance and, mentorship of Ramu sir, we laid out some parameters and we said, okay, now how do we, 250 plus was like too mammoth a task for us. So how do we bring it down and to what extent? So
So
we,
these sorry to
no
interrupt, but
problem.
like a couple of questions there. Like, how long did this journey was? Like, just foraging journey?
I think at least about before we started posting about these plays, about 3 months,
Okay, okay,
3 months or so. Yeah, maybe
okay,
more.
okay.
Yeah.
And these were like actual scripts that you got, or just the play names, or were
No,
they
they were
video
little.
recordings?
No, no, no. I wish that was possible, but then I think then the list would have seen the day of the light of the day next year. So no, we just read up about them. We went by a lot of what was written about them, and the fact that they had made they had made it in these awards. So
Hmm.
um, the jury, which is of course made up of eminent theatre personalities, had thought something of these plays and highlighted them at the top in their awards, like shortlisted them or won. So that was the basis of choosing the 87, selecting it.
Yeah.
It was not a foolproof this thing, in the sense that I know that we missed out on a couple of plays that we later realized that we should have included. One that comes to mind is Grey Elephants in Denmark by Chaitanya Tamhane, which should have been a part of the list, but unfortunately we realized it a little too late by the time we had finished posting. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I would like to think of this as a starting point, and hopefully we can take this further and talk about. It's a conversation starter. It's a
Mm.
way to start conversation about playwriting and celebrating playwriting, and hopefully this conversation can move forward, move ahead, and get wider. That would be the goal.
Correct.
So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. I think I just feel nice about it because definitely art is about starting a dialogue. And when I interviewed Balkrishna Doshi, the great architect, even he said design is also starting a dialogue. So, I mean, I'm right now probably Audiogyan is in the right spot to just have a dialogue. So, Himali, before coming to the question of what sort of criteria was there to shortlist or to just, I mean, I can't say shortlist because there's not like a contest, but still, did you see any patterns in the plays that were written in this period? For example, all were original voices, or all were talking about local or hyper local stuff, or all these were, say, won awards, but why they won awards, right? Because they were original voices, or what? Any pattern you found out?
I don't think there was so much pattern as such. Okay, I think that is the best part, that there is no pattern. There is not, you don't have to, I mean, they've not written about a particular topic or a particular kind of genre. So a lot of experimentation. Some have drawn from the local context. So for instance, Sordid by V. Balakrishnan is about water wives, which is a, more sort of local context. Then there's somebody who would have drawn from an event that would have shocked the world. For example, 777 by Foize Jalali, her, which is about event that shocked the world, an event that occurred in Saudi Arabia. So it's not that there is a pattern. I think what is important is, and I, maybe somewhere as a writer, I resonate with that, is that you write about a topic which connects with you. And I feel that the honesty of the writing comes across in that when you write about a topic that you associate with, that you connect with. And that's what I think all these playwrights have done. So you have this rich wealth of writing about very different topics,
Mm.
and excellent quality of writing, a variety of subjects. Some have gone into the past. There's a couple of plays on partition, which obviously still continue to have, a resonance, in our country. So some have gone to that subject, some have gone across borders. Like I mentioned earlier, Hamlet and Angad, which is, using two characters from, different cultures and bringing them together on stage. Some have gone into contemporary topics, about isolation of living in a big city, and pressures of those kinds. So it's so much variety, and all these have been appreciated. So I think it also shows a developing audience. It shows an audience which is thirsty for good writing, thirsty for good work. And it's also an audience which is giving a writer the confidence to experiment and to bring these novel stories to the stage, that we don't have to have all the same kind of stories. Yes, we will watch this, we will watch, but we will also watch that. So I think that's the most interesting discovery for me, that you don't have to write in a certain way or a certain theme. There's no formula, and that's exciting. Yeah.
Beautiful. I mean, I just love the fact, and I was like just going to say content as a word, but you chose the words very particularly, that people are looking for good writing. I mean, obviously these days people are saying looking for good content. And yeah, I did recently one Audiogyan with Satish Alekar also, and he spoke about his time and the kind of writing, the kind of situations that inspired him to write in a particular way. So yeah, I mean, it's so rich theater. I wish I was part of it somehow. Let's see.
Here you are.
Yeah. So why 87 and how did you decide to stop? 87 kahan se aaya? Like,
There's no really, it's not like when we started, we said we'll go with 87. It's not like 87 had some, mythical, philosophical kind of attraction or anything like that. It was like, okay, we have these, like I said, we had 250 plus to begin with. We had this, and we said, okay, let's start, bringing it down. Let's start narrowing it down. So we said, okay, let's look at plays which have won awards. Let's look at plays which have made it to the top selection, so shortlist. Let's look at plays which have been published. And let's look at plays which have enchanted the audience. They may not have won playwriting awards, but the audiences took to it, took to them.
mm-hmm.
And
So this
they
is based on number of times the show
yeah,
happened.
maybe number of shows, and yeah, number of shows and things like that. So that is how we came down to a list, and we kept whittling away. And at 87, the plays we had, we couldn't whittle away anymore, and we said, yes, these 87 need to be there. So we stopped at 87 and we called it Project 87. I think it's as simple as that. So could we have had a more, fanciful number like 75 because it's 75? Yeah, but then we didn't want to cut down 12 plays out of the list that we had. So I think it is just about this. This is the number of plays that fit into the parameters that we had come up with. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It is a nice vibe also. I have a couple of questions there. And obviously, if you would have said 100, तो एक अलग marketing package बन जाता. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let's take a short break here. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back to the show.
So Himali, like, actually, I like the vibe also of 87, and obviously it was, if it was 100 plays, thoda sa ek alag vibe aati thi. But speaking about vibe, like, you want to talk about who the artist was or who the artist is who designed these small styles of, I mean, just to
Yeah.
depict these names, because I'm sure there must be some A4 posters somewhere in some art gallery or maybe somewhere in Prithvi, but I think you chose to represent in a particular template.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
any
So one, of course, I think procuring these, the posters and all, one, I don't know if how it would be possible. That was one. And second, I think, with images, what happens is that the quality of images also differs from place to place, right? Like some people, not everybody documents productions in the same manner. Also, not all the plays have been produced. We can talk about that in a bit. So the idea was that, okay, can we represent each of the plays through artwork, and have also a sort of a branding or a similarity between each play. So there is a recall value, So the idea was that to have a uniformity in the way they are portrayed on social media. So this was done for us by calligraphist, a letterist, Anjali Shetty, and through her, and she created these for her because she's a passionate, calligrapher and she loves writing, and she was intrigued by the project enough to lend us a hand with it. And yeah, so she did the writing for it. And because all the plays were different, in, like, you asked me about the genre, there is no similarity in genre, right? So we could not, like, it wasn't like we could have a design
theme
which
around it.
spoke of a genre, because I mean, colors represent different emotions. Now, if all the plays are representing different emotions, then how do I have one color in the design? Which is why we went monochromatic, because then we are not creating a visual for the person who is viewing the post or viewing
Yeah,
our artwork, is not already making up his mind about what he's going to read about the play,
correct,
and the
correct.
idea was to just do that. Where possible, we did try and get photographs of productions, I think more from the recent ones. And wherever it was possible, we've shared some of those, because, of course, it's interesting to see how the stage was done, and how it was visualized by the director. So yeah, there's a few of them where we put them, but all of them we've maintained this particular post art concept.
Got it, got it. But then how did you like trace back the roots of the playwright or play production? I mean, yes, sourcing, say, posters was tough, but still I mean, there must be some way to reach out to these people, get some permissions. I don't know. Like, can you speak a little bit about it?
Well, there was not any need for permission, because we weren't really sharing
The
scripts.
scripts,
We
yeah.
weren't doing that. We were just saying, hey, look at this one. This play should be watched, or this play should be read. So it was just that. So there wasn't I don't think the question of permission really came up. As far as sourcing information, a lot of it was internet based. We read extensively about every play that we could find information about. A lot of them we tried to connect with the playwrights wherever we could. Like I said, people were extremely helpful in connecting us to different, through their networks. So, for instance, from Aisha Sayani of Sultan Padamsi, we got a lot of summaries of the plays that were a part of the Sultan Padamsi Award. So then we tried to reach out through social media to the different playwrights. We tried to connect with them through whether it was Instagram or Twitter or through Facebook, or connect with our networks and say, hey, can you like reach me out to this person. So I think it was just a lot of old fashioned networking combined with present time digital age, which kind of came together to help do the research. I think finding information is doable in today's age and time. It's not Kedar.
So I'm
um,
nodding. I'm nodding. I'll tell you why. For the longest time, since when I've been in touch with Ramu sir, I am figuring out whom do I want to research for the rest of my life. I'm trying to decide, not really discover as I go along. थोड़ा सा mode में हूँ मैं, and I said, how about Kabir? So I just said Ramu sir. So like, yeah, good. Walk entire Uttar Pradesh. बोले बॉस नहीं होगा. So yeah, he would bring you down to the reality where, yeah, there is stuff online, definitely. And
right.
projects like Project 87 is definitely going to help bunch of people to discover playwrights. But yeah, sorry, you're continuing. Sir.
No, I think what I meant was that, okay, so depth of information definitely is difficult, right? I mean, I understand what you're trying to say about walking the whole of Uttar Pradesh. But what I mean is that for the archiving purpose that we were looking for, we were able to, get the basic information that we needed to put this together, and that was doable. Yeah, and I think it's just like, everybody being willing to sort of say, yeah, I can share this with you, or I can connect you to this person. And a lot of that happened. So that
Yeah,
was really nice. Yeah.
interesting. So how can Audiogyan listeners, hopefully like some young students or college people, universities, can get access to these plays or maybe playwrights? I mean, is there a simpler way to, because this is documented now?
So wherever possible, we've tagged them on social media, so that is one. See, the point is that access to plays per se is a little bit more tricky, right? Because at the end of the day, that is what needs permission. You need to connect with the playwright, and they have to be comfortable sharing their play with you. But yeah, so now with this project, you are aware that these are the plays that have been written. these are the plays that are out there. These are the plays that I should be reading and I could be reading and I could learn from there. So for especially for students of theatre who were perhaps, only reading plays and were more aware of the things which were written 30, 40, 50 years ago, now know that, okay, no, there's other stuff as well and we can access them. Some of these plays have been published as well. So wherever they have been published, we have mentioned that through our posts. So I think if you, for those who, if you follow the project on the social media handles, whether it's Twitter or Instagram, that definitely at least makes you aware of the different plays that are, that have been written in the last 20 years. So yeah, I think that would be the best way to take it forward. Then do a little bit more digging and see
Yeah,
what,
yeah.
what you want. Yeah.
I mean, cool. I think, these were a few questions which I thought of, but since we also did readings in the shed, like I wanted to understand how is this or how has this project helped you there, or some learnings from there you could bring into this project. You want to shed some light on readings in the shed?
So, with readings in the shed, which, Nikhil, like when we spoke about it last time when Nikhil Katara was here, which we started in 2018, we've done a lot of adaptations of existing stuff, existing plays, whether, worked more on stuff which is not written in India. So, because the idea has been with readings in the shed, the idea was to, we've been bringing writing from different parts of the world to the Indian context, to the Indian audience, and saying that, yeah, look, this is happening, that is happening, and we've been contextualizing it with either what's happening globally or what's happening locally. With Project 87, the plays being set here, it provided to me a very interesting contrast point, you know,
Hmm.
where we said that, okay, for instance, if, one of the plays that we've been working on, which, we'll be putting up on stage in the next couple of days, is The Man Outside by Wolfgang Bosch. And the goal was to bring writing from different parts of the world and bring it to the Indian audience. When I read those writers, and we adapted some of, not adapted, but edited. I did some, edited the scripts to perform here on the stage in Bombay. I found that there was this universality in themes, that they spoke about. So it resonated with me, irrespective of the fact that it may have been written in like 70, 80 years ago, set in Germany or Poland or, Russia or, countries that I didn't know maybe much about. But I could still find a resonance, because of the universality of themes. What's interesting for me is when I read about the subjects that the playwrights here were writing about, in these the ones which we have featured in the project and others, is that there's a more spontaneous resonance. Because I'm aware of the subject that they're talking about. I'm familiar with them. It is home ground.
Yeah,
You
local
know,
context.
it is as a local context. So the connection is immediate. At the same time, they're also making me rethink what I thought I already knew, you know, because when you're aware of a backstory, when you've lived around it, about it, and then somebody's created a story and you're thinking, oh, I didn't think about it from that point of view. And maybe I should think about it in this manner. So that for me was very interesting when I came across these kind of playwrights. Some of these plays are saying things, which India has shut its ears to, and that's something that I think is an interesting point for us to think about further. In terms of writing, what was very exciting is that it feels like the writing is as rich as anywhere in the world. So I think that's a very heartening thing for a Indian reader and a writer. So as it's nice. I mean, it's amazing the kind of subjects that people came up with. So
Yeah, yeah. And shut their ears may not be really for a particular reason. It is maybe time was the thing, or maybe,
perhaps.
yeah, yeah. Cool. So, Himali, one last question, which is sort of going to be a tough one, is that I'm going to bring down Project 87 to Project 5 for this question. Any top or generally five plays that you loved while the curation was happening, you stumbled upon, or within the 87, or maybe five that you missed out and you said maybe Project 92. Yeah.
um, so what was interesting is that a lot of the plays that have been noticed for their playwriting, a lot of them have not been produced, have not been staged.
Hmm.
So that is the big gap. Somewhere that gap needs to be addressed because these plays need to be seen, and they need to be seen, and also some which have been produced but need to be seen in more places and maybe more languages as well, besides
Hmm.
English, to get a wider audience. As a theater goer, when I was reading about these plays, and there were so many that I've not seen, maybe because they didn't come to the Bombay space, or maybe they weren't staged at all. There was a lot of envy, that, oh God, I didn't like this, sounds fascinating. I wish I would have got to see this. And this sounds so amazing. And I wish I would have been able to see this. And I wonder how they staged this, or I have, things like for instance, like when you ask number the five, one of them is Feeding Crows by Meher Pesenji, which won the BBC Playwriting Award South Asia category, I think 2009, if I'm not mistaken. It's a very topical subject that she's written about. It's about the whole custom in the Parsi community about the vultures, feeding off the corpse and things like that. And it's a topic which has been discussed a lot lately. And so what's interesting for me was that it won the radio contest. So I would have loved to see how it would have been staged. Then there's Mountain of Bones by Manjima Chatterjee, which is which focuses on politics of hunger. And it is three short plays which is tied up by the same theme and sort of brought together. So that's another one which I would love to see. Sorted by Mr. V. Balakrishnan, which I think hopefully should be out there a lot more. Like I mentioned it again, it won the 2019 Hindu Award and it's based on the concept of water wife. That's one which I really want to see as well. Then there's Hamlet and Angad, which I've already mentioned a couple of times by Mr. Thomas Manuel. Another one is Phantasmagoria by Deepika Arvind. It has been staged in Germany. It was during the lockdown. I think there was also a performative reading of it by a German group. So I'm like, why not here? It needs to come
Mhm.
here. It is the topic is communication and politics. I mean, that is what the play is based around. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I stuck to your five or I went on a little bit more,
No,
but
nice.
it would be great to see all of them and many more. And I think that is at the end of it what we are trying to say with the project. That let's have a lot more of these plays out there, and also across theater cultures. Like
Yeah,
let's have a little bit more of cross pollination across theater groups and stuff like that. So that would be ideal. Yeah.
great, great. I mean, I don't know. I'm short of words, but I'm really sort of envying the kind of life that you have because it's like so enriching from readings in the shed and then like a lot of stuff which is homegrown and you are like curating it.
Sorry, if I
Any
can just,
yeah,
sorry, just to interrupt
no,
you.
no.
So
So
yeah, I just
uh,
I was just going to say that I think the process of archiving has been very interesting.
correct,
It's,
correct.
and then of course, big thank you to Ramu sir for thinking that I could, do justice to something like this because it's a big vision, and this is small part of that. So that,
Mm,
and of course, like I mentioned, Mary and Vipra, who contributed with their time, Nikhil, who was, who's part of the readings in the shed and who was constantly like a good sounding board for the ideas and, and because he's again so into theater, involved in creating so much theater, it was good to get his feedback. And of course, the graphic artist, like I said, Anjali Shetty, who did the artwork for us. So yeah, it's been exciting. Yeah, sorry. Just wanted to make sure that mention these people.
Yes, in fact, I was just going to ask the same thing, that do you have any people whom you want to give a shout out to for this entire journey and process?
These I mean, everybody, I already mentioned everybody who gave their time and, gave their attention. With so much social media, it's actually a little bit more difficult to get people's attention. And, so many who when we connected with them and we said, we're doing this, and they were so encouraging and they were very appreciative of the fact that we were putting something like this out there. And a lot of people from theatre, who said, oh, yes, this needs to be done. And we're glad that, you guys are doing this. And then went on to, support through their social media networks. So besides all of these people who were actively a part of the project, there's a whole second circle of people silently and digitally supporting. So yeah, it's nice. That's what it should be about. So
yes. And yeah, it's an honor that we all, I mean, you gave time to document this on Audiogyan also. So yeah, it's a great one.
My pleasure.
Cool,
it was fun.
Cool. Yes. So what next? Any new project coming up?
Well, with theatre spaces opening up again, we are hoping with Readings in the Shed to be back to the physical space. So we actually have a show coming up on Friday, on the 10th, at Gayatri Institute Max Miller in Mumbai, where we are doing a performative reading of The Man Outside. It's being directed by Nikhil, who I mentioned, and performers include there's Dheer Hira, Monica Mahendru, there's Advait Kothari, Preeti Rao, Zoya Khan, and Amay Mehta. So we have a sort of a big team putting up this show together, and we're looking forward to it. It's been a long time, so everybody's been locked away. So we're looking to unleash, deploy all our energies onto the stage. So awesome. That's something. So hopefully with the physical spaces opening up, we should be seeing a lot more of theatre in the three-dimensional form rather than on the computer screens. So that's what looking forward to. Yeah, looking forward to that.
Absolutely. So all the power and all the best for that. If people have to follow you, Short Bite, you're active on Twitter, and for Project 87, it's Instagram. It's at
Project 87 _theatre. That is our Insta handle. And you can see everything that we have done so far on over those 3 months, where we posted every single day, and we continue to share information on theatre, and we are hoping to have a second act of the project, maybe do a little bit more. So we'll see how that goes. So working towards that as well a little bit. So
Great. All the best for that also. And once again, many thanks for joining on Audiogyan. It was lovely talking to you, and hope people connect and there's more dialogue happening around theatre.
Yes. Let's hope so. Yes. Thanks, Kedar. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And that's it from today's Gyan session. For show notes and more Gyan, visit audiogyan.com. If you like this podcast, please don't forget to check our other interesting podcast on IVM Network. You can listen to us on IVM Podcast app, ivmpodcast.com, or any of your favorite podcasting apps. To stay tuned, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at IVM Podcast. And if you wish to connect with me, I am at Audiogyan Moments on Instagram. Until then, take care.